In the 1990s, the Central Station in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, was bustling with people coming and going every day. Due to the low level of education, there are a lot of illiterates here. Illiterate people who want to write letters to relatives and friends will find professional letter writers. That's what Dora does, and the business is pretty good. Every day, all kinds of people pour out their hearts in front of her. They are sad or happy, crying or laughing, and every letter carries their hopes and emotions. Dora was responsible for recording what they dictated and then helping them mail the letters. On this day, Dora welcomed a mother and son. The mother's name is Anna, and the son's name is Joshua. Anna wants to write a letter to her husband Isu, because her son wants to see his father, but her words were full of resentment towards her husband. After giving her name and address, she took her son's hand and left. After a busy day, Dora got on the train home. She has lived alone in this old house for decades. The only person she knows well and trusts is her best friend Aaron. As soon as she got home, she called her best friends to read the letters together, and tore up and threw away the letter she didn't like. Even though it was against professional ethics, she enjoyed it because she feels that people are all fake, evil and ugly, and there is no true love at all. Just when she was about to tear up Anna's letter to her husband, Aaron stopped her, because she felt that maybe Joshua would reunite with his father, and the family would be reunited. For the sake of her best friend, Dora finally left the letter. Unexpectedly, the mother and son came back 2 days later, and asked her to tear up the letter, and write a new one. Because the son wanted to see his father so much, the mother's attitude changed. She asked Dora to write the letter sincerely, and also promised to take her son to find his father next month. After she finished writing the letter, Dora said, "Just write without sending. $1. Write and send. $2. Anna gave $2. Joshua quickly interrupted, and said, "Mom, how can you be sure she will send the letter?" His mother taught him to speak politely. Dora told them to leave quickly. The mother and son walked out of the waiting hall holding hands. As they were about to cross the street, Joshua turned around to pick up the top that had fallen to the ground. At this time, a bus came quickly, and his mother was instantly trapped under the bus. Joshua squatted on the ground and cried loudly, but his mother lay motionless on the ground, as if she was asleep. Joshua suddenly became a helpless orphan, sitting in the waiting room crying silently, as if waiting for his mother to come back to pick him up. Then he came to Dora with eyes red from crying. He said he wanted to write a letter to his father, and ask him to come over quickly because his mother was injured, but he didn't have a penny. Dora refused to serve him, even though he burst into tears. Dora did not relent at all. He wanted to get his mother's letter back, but Dora said that the letter had been sent, and told him to get out of here. When Dora took the train home, Joshua stood on the platform and stared at her hatefully. After the train started moving, Joshua followed desperately to catch up. He knew that his mother's letter must still be in the hands of that bad woman. Being homeless that night, he could only sleep next to the trash can in the waiting hall. The next day, Dora saw him accidentally, and brought him something to eat, but Joshua was very stubborn and he didn't want what the bad woman gave him. The train station was very chaotic and the public security situation was very bad. A young man grabbed a player and ran away. After being caught, the young man lay on the ground wailing. Station security officer Pedro took out his pistol and shot him to death. Pedro stared at Joshua and then said something to Dora. Dora suddenly changed her attitude, took the initiative to show her kindness to Joshua, and told him that your mother passed away, and come home with me. After her repeated persuasion, the helpless Joshua could only follow her home. Here, Joshua met Aaron. The three of them chatted happily. After dinner, Joshua found all the unsent letters in the drawer, including the one from his mother. Dora saw it and snatched it away. Joshua made him promise to send the letter, and Dora agreed perfunctorily. Early the next morning, Dora took Joshua to Pedro's house. Pedro and his wife were unusually friendly to Joshua, but Joshua seemed to have realized something, and tears welled up in his eyes. Dora went home with a smile on her face after receiving the $1,000 commission. That night, a new type of remote-control TV was added to the house. Her best friend asked Dora where she got the money. Under her constant questioning, Dora had to tell the truth. She handed Joshua over to the adoption agency. Not only would she earn a fortune, but Joshua would also have a place to stay. Her best friend quickly interrupted her. That was not adoption at all. They were killing children and selling their organs. Didn't you read the newspaper? Dora, there must be a limit to everything. That night Dora lay in bed tossing and turning, unable to sleep. If what her best friend said was true, wouldn't Joshua be in danger? Early the next morning, she came to Pedro's house again. She first used some tricks to get rid of Pedro's wife, then quietly walked into the room to find Joshua, dragged him and ran out. The woman found out and chased her, and the two fought at the door. Dora locked the door desperately, and her clothes were torn by the woman. When they fled downstairs, The woman stood upstairs and cursed loudly that she was going to be killed. Dora did not dare to go home, so she fled to the station with Joshua. Then she called her best friend and asked her best friend not to reveal her whereabouts, lock the door for her, and then wire her $200 for emergency help. Then she bought 2 tickets to send Joshua to his father, but Joshua hated her very much, this bad woman, and didn't want her to accompany him. He asked for his mother's letter back and entered the ticket gate alone. Dora knocked on the door as the bus started. She couldn't go home now anyway, and she couldn't let Joshua go alone. Joshua turned his head to the side and didn't want to talk to her at all. The bus drives through the night. Arrived at the transfer station in the early morning. Joshua wants to buy a shirt because he wants to impress his dad. After Dora hesitated for a moment, they both bought new clothes and changed into them. This incident made Joshua's attitude towards her improve, and he took the initiative to talk to her. Joshua admired his father very much and wanted to see him as soon as possible. He said that his father was a carpenter and could make many things, including tables, chairs, doors, windows, and houses. His eyes were shining when he said this, but Dora felt that his father must be a bastard who abandoned his wife and children, drank and abused him. Because her father was that kind of person and abandoned her mother, after her mother died, she left home and never returned. After so many years, the unbearable childhood memories still tortured her. She no longer trusts men, or even the so-called emotions between people. She had been relying on alcohol to numb herself, as if she could get a moment of peace in this way. After another day and night, they arrived at the next transfer station. The exhausted Joshua fell asleep on Dora's shoulder. Dora stuffed several $100s into his bag, but she still felt deeply resentful. She felt that Anna should not forgive her husband, so she secretly took the letter away. Then he gave the driver some money and asked him to deliver Joshua safely to his destination. She bought a return ticket and went to the restaurant for a glass of wine. Looking at the bus gradually going away, she let out a long sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she found Joshua sitting blankly at the table in the restaurant. Joshua felt she had abandoned him and cried silently. But what's worse is that he left his backpack on the bus. That was the only money they had left, but the bus had long since disappeared. The two of them were so hungry that they could only sit in the restaurant and watch others eat. A kind-hearted uncle noticed it and took the initiative to invite them to eat together. They chatted while eating and quickly became familiar with each other. The uncle is a truck driver, and the two of them were lucky enough to catch a ride. The uncle has no wife and lives alone all over the world. Joshua pointed at Dora and said, "Then you are just like her." When they came to the grocery store at the gas station, Joshua very sensibly helped to move the goods. Seeing the boy in the store eating snacks, he was so greedy that his mouth watered, so he stole some snacks and put them on his body. Dora found out and scolded him severely. Later, she took the opportunity to steal some biscuits and ham in the store. The store manager immediately stopped her and asked her to open the bag for inspection. The driver and the shop owner have been friends for many years, and with his strong protection, Dora was able to escape. After getting into the truck, Dora gave the snacks to Joshua and warned him not to do the same again. When the driver came back, he did not expose her embarrassment, but instead told a joke. Joshua's dream is to be a truck driver when he grows up. Dora asked the uncle to let him touch the steering wheel, and the driver taught him how to drive step by step. A long-lost smile appeared on Joshua's face. At night, the driver parked the truck on the side of the road to rest. It was cold in the desert, so the uncle put a blanket on Dora. Dora's body felt warm, and her heart felt warm too. They talked about life together, and the driver said with emotion that they became friends after meeting by chance. But it is often difficult to see each other again after they break up. This feeling is the most uncomfortable. Dora replied hopefully, "Maybe we don't have to separate." They continued on their way after dawn and arrived at a restaurant at noon. Dora asked Joshua to go aside first. She wanted to talk to the driver uncle alone. She said that meeting him was the happiest and luckiest thing in her life. Then she tremblingly stretched out her hand and held the driver's hand. The driver stared at her blankly without saying a word. Then Dora went to the bathroom, and she suddenly remembered that Joshua had scolded her, "You are old and ugly, and you never wear lipstick, like a tomboy." So she borrowed a lipstick from the lady next to her and applied it. But when she returned full of expectations, the driver drove away in a hurry. Dora's frozen heart had just been bathed in a beam of sunshine, but suddenly fell into the ice cave. Unable to suppress her grief, she lay on the curtains and cried bitterly. Maybe her judgment is really right. Men are unreliable, and relationships are even less reliable. After crying, Joshua comforted her. "Actually, you look good with lipstick." At this time, a truck passed by, and Dora took her watch as payment for the fare and got on the truck. After many days of traveling, Joshua finally arrived at the town where his father lived, but he felt like a little beggar and didn't want to see his father in such a sloppy way. Dora helped him dress up, and then found him according to the address. His father's home was on an empty farm. Joshua ran all the way. He wanted to immediately fall into his father's arms and tell him how much he missed him. However, the hostess and children at home stared at them suspiciously. Not long after, the man of the house came home, and Joshua stared at him excitedly. "Is this my dad?" He didn't look like he was. After Dora expressed her intention to come, the man thought it was his illegitimate child, who came to the door. He asked if the boy was good. Dora nodded and said he was very well behaved. But when Dora gave the letter to the man, he smiled and said that you have found the wrong person. Isu was the previous owner of this house. Then he took out Isu's current address, and whispered that he won a large amount of money, so he sold the house. As soon as he got the money, he spent it all in the bar. After returning to town, Dora called her best friend for help, but her best friend sent the money to the wrong place, and now she can't receive it at all. And Joshua's mood fell to the extreme. At night, the residents of the town were holding a religious gathering. The two of them were tired, hungry, and very irritable. When Dora got angry, she scolded Joshua severely. Joshua, who was already very sad, turned around and ran away in anger. Dora was already exhausted and sweating profusely when she chased him to the church. After searching for a long time, she could not find Joshua. Dora was angry and anxious. Gradually she lost strength, became dizzy, and fell to the ground. When Joshua saw it, he quickly walked over to her. The next day, the morning sun rose and the cool breeze brought refreshment, and Dora fell asleep peacefully in Joshua's arms. Joshua stroked her hair gently. Soon after, Dora woke up. Because they had no money, they could only sit in a daze on the street and watch the endless crowd of people. Joshua suddenly thought of a good idea: ask passers-by if they needed to write a letter to God or to their family. So their little stall was opened. Joshua shouted to attract business, and customers quickly lined up. Dora listened carefully to their hearts, and felt their emotions, sufferings in the world, human emotions, etc. Carefully write one letter after another. By the end of the night, they had made a fortune. Afterwards, they took photos together and made fun while walking. Joshua also bought a beautiful dress for Dora. At night, they finally had money to stay in a hotel. Joshua followed Dora's example and threw the letter into the trash can. Dora quickly stopped him. She wanted to send all these letters, because every letter was full of hope and deep expectations. She kissed Joshua's forehead and they finally got some solid sleep. The next day, the two of them went to the new address. Dora asked him, "Do you remember what your father looks like?" Joshua said, "Sometimes I remember his face, and sometimes it's very vague." Dora said, "It won't be long before you will forget me too." But Joshua said firmly, "I will not forget you." Walking to the long-awaited house, a man came out. The result was still a huge disappointment. The man told them that Isu had disappeared long ago and there was no news about him. After hearing this, Joshua left dejectedly. Dora hurriedly chased after him, and he told Joshua, "Why don't you go home with me?" Joshua thought for a while and nodded to him. While asking about tickets at the canteen, a young man walked up to them. He heard that someone was looking for his father Isu, so he came over to ask. His name was Isaiah, and he was Joshua's half-brother. He also has another brother, and they all know this younger brother, Joshua. Later, he invited the two of them to his home. Brother Moses also greeted them. Joshua saw a photo of his mother, and a man on the wall at home. That man was his father, whom he had always dreamed of, although he could not remember it clearly. The brother told them that the brothers moved after their father disappeared. They opened a small shop here and worked as carpenters like their father. His brother helped Joshua make a spinning top as a greeting gift. Their father left a letter before he ran away. The brother asked Dora to help him read it. After their mother died, their father stayed with Joshua's mother. For 2 years, Dad had been waiting for Anna, and then he suddenly disappeared. Dora put on her glasses and read, "Anna, you little fool, I have been looking for someone to write a letter for me for a long time. I think you must have gone back and found our new home, but I am in Rio looking for you. I hope I can get home first. If the letter comes first, wait for me. I will go back too. We will be reunited as a family, you, me, Isaiah, Moses and Joshua. I want to see you most. Joshua, we will live together forever." After hearing the letter, Joshua nodded firmly and said, he will come back one day. And his brother had already shed tears uncontrollably. Late at night, Dora put on the dress Joshua bought her, and applied lipstick in the mirror. Joshua once said to her, "Actually, you look good with lipstick." At this time, the three brothers were lying on the same bed, sleeping soundly. Dora walked out of the room quietly. She took out the letter she had written for Anna and placed it next to Isa's letter, wishing their family happiness. The sky was already turning white, and Dora set out on her way home alone. As if telepathically, Joshua suddenly woke up. When he discovered that Dora had left, he chased after her desperately. The bus had already set off, but Joshua was still running barefoot. Dora wrote many letters to others throughout her life, but she had no one to whom she could write. Now she can finally write to Joshua. Dear Joshua, you are right. Your father will definitely come back. He is a good father just like you said. My father is a train driver. Remember the first time he took me on the train, he asked me, a girl, to blow the whistle all the way. So when you drive a big truck, don't forget that I was the first person to let you drive. You live with your brothers, it's better. You deserve what I can't give you. If you want to remember me, just look at our photo. Now I miss my dad so much. I miss everything. Dora allowed tears to crisscross her face, and Joshua melted the ice in his heart like a ray of golden sunshine. The little girl who had resented her father for half her life finally let go at this moment. After experiencing countless days and nights of doubt and suffering, she finally began to open herself up, and slowly began to accept the world. Central Station is a 1988 work directed by Walter Salles. After watching this movie, I believe many people will think of Kakujiro no Natsu. During a journey, adults and children heal and rely on each other. But I thought of another French movie, The Hedgehog. Everyone is a hedgehog in life, but most people are not elegant. Perhaps Dora is that an elegant hedgehog. After being slapped a few times by life, she closed herself off, just like a frightened hedgehog, using her thorns to stab the whole world while hiding in the world. There is loneliness and suffering inside. Through her small keyhole, Dora only saw that the world was a dilapidated garbage dump, but did not pay attention to the dots of roses on it. Sometimes we are so paranoid that when we see a drop of blood, we think the world is full of blood, and when we hear a gunshot, we think the world is full of evil. It is true that we must admit that the world is often cruel. Not every love is happy, and not every family is happy. Childhood is not always carefree, and lovers are not always in love with each other. Not all people are kind and friendly to each other, but you have to know that the world is very big, and there are people so big that we will never have the chance to meet them in our lifetime. Don't deny yourself because of one person, let alone deny the whole world because of a relationship. You don't have to be upset because everyone has a blind spot that you can't get out of and others can't get in. When you feel you can't let it go, don't let it go. When you feel you can't forget it, don't forget it. As the saying goes, the important thing is not to heal, but to live with an open heart despite the pain. This is HKY Movies. Looking forward to meeting you next time.